So what we need to do is we need to develop inside the themes folder. And we're going to reopen brackets. And we are going to create a new file. And we're going to call this file style.css, and we need to send this to our MAMP folder. So this is going to be inside applications. We're going to MAMP. We're going to htdocs because this is where our WordPress installation is. WP content. We're going to go to themes. And then we need to make a new folder for our theme, and we are going to call this WP Web WP Web Dev. And we are going to save this into our new theme folder. So here is what we're going to need for our styles. What we need to do first is create a comment. This is a comment that is used in both PHP programming, and WordPress is based on the PHP programming language, but this also works for CSS. And all we're going to do is put in / asterisk or the star, and we're going to bring it down a few lines, and we're going to put in asterisk / and that is our comment, because our theme name is going to go in here, and the theme name is we're calling this WordPress for web development. We're going to go down, we're going to call theme URI. And that's a fancy name basically for the address where the theme is. And I'm simply going to put in my own website. And that is my design website. We're going to go to the next line. And the author is me. The author URI, that is basically a fancy word for my website. So we're going to put in author URI. And it's important to remember I am an HTTPS, which stands for secure. This is a requirement of most websites right now. Google wants most websites to have an SSL certificate. I will not go into too much detail about that, but it's Google's mandate to try and make the web safer for everybody. So the next one, we want to put a description of what this website is, or what this theme is. So here's our description. Right now, we're just going to say that this is simply a bare bones theme. Next line, we're going to call this, we need a version for our theme, and most themes that are released are usually start at 1, but because this is in development, we're going to make our version 0.1. We will change that once our theme development is done. We'll make it a real theme. It'll have a theme number of 1.0, but for right now we are at 0.1 because we're essentially in the alpha or beta stage. Next line, we need the license URI. And that is http:// www.gnu.org/ licenses / GPL 2.0 .html. And finally, what we want to do is put in some tags. And these are just basic descriptions for anybody who wants to download and use this this theme. They will have an idea of what it is that they're going to be getting when they download the theme. So it's a good idea to have some descriptions. So we're going to start with tags, : 1 column, comma, 2 columns, comma, sidebar, comma, responsive, because once we're done with our theme, it's going to be responsive or mobile friendly. So responsive, comma, adaptable, comma, menu enabled, comma, thumbnail enabled, and that should do it. So now we have our basic theme. We're going to save this. So this is everything you need to create a theme. And so just to prove that we actually have a theme there, we can go to our WordPress for web development. Let's go to our dashboard. Appearance, themes. So it's not showing up yet because we don't have enough. So what we have here is the basics of what we need to get a theme started. So what we're going to do is just go and take a look and see what is in the themes area. We're just going to go to dashboard. You can also just go to themes from there, but we're going to click on themes. And here are the active themes, but you're going to notice down here it says broken themes. Why is it broken? Because right now all we have is a CSS file, but there is no templates. What we need is the basics is an index.php file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to go to brackets and we're going to fix that. We're going to create the index.php file. So let's get started on that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to New. We're going to save this as. We have to navigate back to our map folder. htdocs. WP content, remember, this is the only place where we are developing right now. And WP web dev. We're going to call this index.php. So what goes into the index.php? I think it's probably better if we create another file first. We're going to create the header.php because this is where WordPress is very unique. It is able to assemble a website from modular parts. And I will explain that a bit more in a moment, but let's just go to Save As. And we are going to we're going to make this header.php. So what goes into here? What we need to do to start the WordPress website is create all of the various files that we're going to need for WordPress to find a template. And so with the header, we're going to basically start with how you build a normal website. And that starts with the doc type. And that's HTML. Next is we start with the HTML tag. And you'll see that it wants to complete, brackets wants to complete this tag, but we can't do that here. We basically need to have an opening HTML tag, and the closing HTML tag will be in another document. And I will explain that in a moment. So after the HTML comes the head tags. And we do want to keep this here. And inside the head tag, we're going to have the title tag. And the name of this website is WordPress for Web Development. So coming after the head tag, what I want to do is before the title, we also want to put in the char set with the meta tag. This is, and the char set, it actually gives you a couple choices here if you want to just type it in, or you can simply select it there. and our char set is going to be UTF-8. Close that tag. So now we open up the body. So this is the body tag. And again, we are not going to have the closing tag in this document because it's going to end up in another document, and I will explain that in depth a little bit in a moment. But for the sake of readability, I like to indent things. I like to give it a little bit of space, and I'm sure it's a lot easier for you to read as well. So after the body, what we're going to do is start our website tags, and we're going to start with a div. And the ID of this div is going to be wrapper. This is the container that's going to hold the whole website. So ID equals wrapper. Close that tag. And the closing div will be in another document. So just to give you a little bit of review on what an ID is, if you're not used to CSS, IDs are special references to a tag so that you can create CSS rules for it. And if you're using an ID is strictly one use. If a tag like this div has an ID of wrapper, then it's the only tag that can use that, because it's like an ID, like your driver's license, like your personal address. There's maybe a lot of people who have your name out on the internet and in the world, but only you have your own social security number, only you live at your address. So this is what an ID is. There can only be one of these. A class, on the other hand, is reusable. You can use classes wherever you need to, and we will explore that in a little while. But in the meantime, let's keep going. We now have our wrapper that is going to, let's put a little comment there just to make sure. So that we're going to put a comment, an HTML comment, and we're just going to say holds the whole website. This is always a good reference. So there is our comment. So now we are going to get started on the header. And inside the header, we're just going to put a couple returns here. And what we're going to put here is an H1 tag. And this again is going to be the name of the website. So we basically have everything that we need for our header. So we are going to save this. And then we're going to go back to our index file. So we're going to open new. Looks like we saved over our index file for the header.php, but easily enough fixed. Save as. Index. So what goes into the index? We're going to continue what the header did, so that we're going to start here with the actual meat of the website, the actual contents. The header does have contents, but it's the inside that is going to have all of the information and the actual content that gives you what the website is about and gives you all of the information. So we're going to start here with a section. This is an HTML tag, so we're going to start and the ID of this section we're going to call this container. And let's give this a tag as well, or a comment. So we're going to put in, this is going to hold the content in the sidebar. I think it's always a good idea to comment out this so that you always know where you are, and it's generally a good idea to know when it closes as well. So what we're going to do is put another comment here. Let's just say closes container. So inside there, the next part that we are going to want to put in is the content. And the content is going to be the main information panel for the website. So that's going to be another section. We're going to call it the ID of this is content. And again, comment this out. And again, we're going to comment out the closing of the content. So let's put in a little bit of temporary content in here. So let's start with an H2 tag. And we're starting with an H2 tag because if you remember from the header, we're just going to go there. We put in H1 for the name of the tag. And what you always want to think about with web design is that you want to have a hierarchy. The name of the website is the most important thing. It is the one that is dominant, and then all of the other tags are going to be in descendants of importance from that, because the name of the website's important. That identifies what it is, and then all of the other tags that come through are going to be descending down, because if you have too many H1 tags, they just fight with each other. They compete for attention. So that you always want to think about that. So let's start with an H2 tag. Whoops. And what we want to do is give this a standard WordPress ID. This is actually a class, as I remember. If you remember, I was telling you about how the classes and the IDs work. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a class of WP title. And we're just going to put a temporary headline in here. We're just going to say, welcome to your first theme! Exclamation point. And just to remind us, we're going to put in a P tag, a paragraph tag. And we're just going to say we'll place this content once we are connected to the visual editor. And then we'll put in a second paragraph tag just to have some content there. And we're just going to fill this with Lorem Ipsum. So if any of you don't know what Lorem Ipsum is, it's very useful for filling temporary content. If you just need to see what the content is going to look like, but you don't have the actual content, all you need to do is go to Google and type in and so for anybody who is familiar with Lorem Ipsum, apparently it is not nonsense. It actually has a meaning. It is based on a text in Greek and in other languages, and apparently it has something important to say, but that's neither here nor there. All we're going to do, this generates, just to go back, let me just show you this is the Lorem Ipsum page. This is the generator, and all you have to do is click the Generate Lorem Ipsum button here, and you get 5 rows, 5 paragraphs. If you need more, all you have to do is change this number right here. If you need 100 paragraphs, you could just put 100 in there. But I think that right now we could probably get by with 2. Generate Lorem Ipsum. So there are our 2 paragraphs, and all we have to do is copy this, copy that. We can close the Lorem Ipsum page. We can go back to brackets, and inside this paragraph tag we're just going to paste our Lorem Ipsum. And because we want these to be paragraphs, we're going to close the P tag at the end of the first paragraph and put in a beginning P tag at the beginning of the second. So now we have our 2 paragraphs. We have our temporary content. This is all temporary. So that this is where we are right now. And so that the next file that we need to create, we have created the header and the index. So what we need to do first of all, before we go any further, is we need to save this file so that we have index is now saved. And so now we are going to go on to the footer. And if you're familiar with web design, most websites, just about all websites, they have a header, they have a main content area, they have a sidebar, and they have a footer. And so we still have to create the footer, so we're going to go to New. We're going to Save As. And because I may not have explained this well before, but we are naming these files template name.php because WordPress is written in PHP, and so it needs the PHP files. What will happen as a result of doing this is that WordPress will convert these PHP files into HTML files and display as a normal web page. But in the meantime, let's make our footer.php. So there we are. We have the header, index, and rename. It can't be we're just going to close. So this is the thing, is sometimes you just have a lapse and you have a misspelling, and so all you have to do is go back and fix it. So we are going to spell footer right this time. I promised. Footer. P. So our footer file is going to be the close of what we started in the header. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we can indent this because everything up above is indented, and we're going to put in a footer tag. So what we could do, normally what happens in the footer is that you have the copyright line. So why don't we just put that in right now? We're just going to do a P tag, paragraph tag, if you prefer. And we're going to call this, give it an ID, and we're just going to call this copyright. So that whenever you're doing any kind of special characters for the web, what you want to do is have, I'll tell you what, let's make this easier to read for you. So the ASCII character for copyright is written as ###169. And then you end with a semicolon, and then we're going to say me, comma, all rights reserved. So now we need to finish everything that we had up above. So if you recall, in our header, let's go take a look at the header. What we had was we have the body and we have the wrapper. And so what we need to do is close the wrapper in the footer. So let's go back to footer. And so we are going to create a closing div tag. And put in a comment. And this closes the wrapper. And then finally, we're going to close the body tag. And then finally, we're going to close the HTML tag. So we're going to save this, check to make sure that our content in all three of these is ready. So it looks like we're just about there to look at it. So we've saved. So we're going to refresh, click the refresh and see what we can see. And so you see here, we have created our theme, WordPress for web development. So we're going to activate it and see what our website looks like. We're going to visit the site.